Okay. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting of the Madison County Fiscal Court to order. Kenny?
Master King?
Here.
Master Barger?
Here.
Master Hughes?
Here.
Master Combs?
Here.
Judge Clark?
Here. You all have had a chance to look at the minutes of the last meeting. It probably took you about 2 days, but hopefully you've had a chance to look at those. And if there's no discussion or changes, a motion would be in order to approve those as submitted in your packets.
So moved. Second.
Master King?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Hughes?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Clark?
Yes. Treasurer's report. Glenna?
I passed out your packets that go through May the 31st, 2012. As of April 30th, 2012, our total fund balances were $5,204,982.29. At the end of May 31st, 2012, our balance is $4,892,762.74. Right now, we should be around 91% of our budget. Our general fund revenues are at 84.1%, and our expenditures are at 59.8%. Our road fund, our revenues are at 96.5%, and the expenditures are at 95.1%. Our jail fund, the revenues are at 99.8%. Our expenditures are at 98.1%. CSEP fund, the revenues are at 63.2%, and the expenditures are at 61.5%. And our 911 fund, the revenues are at 97.3%, and our expenditures are at 87.7%.
On the jail fund, are they up to date, stayed up to date on what they pay?
Yes.
I know they run behind a lot of times, so that's already in.
Yes, they are up to date on what they paid us, and we brought in more in-state prisoners. You'll also see in today's agenda, we have two what they call emergency budget amendments. The only reason they're called emergency is because we're out of time in the fiscal year to have two readings. But we're budget amending in more state prisoner money this time, and we budgeted amended in last court also. Is there any
questions for Glenna? Not, thank you, Glenna. Before we get into order of business, I'd like to court's permission to amend the agenda. There are two very short items. One is a grant application from the rescue squad, and the other one is a grant application from our county fire department. And I don't think we need a vote, just if everybody's in agreement. Everybody okay?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go into order of business, and I'll start with those two. The first one, the rescue squad has the opportunity to apply for a $20,000, it's called a Swift Water Rescue, and it helps give them training and equipment. It is a no match. There'll be no county match. It's strictly a straight up $20,000 grant. And I have the resolution here, and I think, you know, they're trying to do everything they can to come up with grants and free money. So if there are no questions, a motion would be in order to authorize a resolution to allow the rescue squad to apply for the $20,000 Swift Water Rescue Grant.
So moved. Second.
Master King?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Hughes?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Clark?
Yes. The next one is our fire department, and of course, we all know we're cutting as much as possible, and we were able to get some Homeland Security money last year for air packs. They're in dire need of new bunker gear, and we have an opportunity, hopefully, to apply for $100,000 through Homeland Security to get new bunker gear for our fire department. And I think this is an 80-20 match, but that's a really good match, and Jim feels very comfortable because we got in a little bit late last year, but we're getting this in on time this year. So if there are no questions, a motion be in order to support the fire department with the resolution to apply for $100,000 for bunker gear for our fire department.
So moved. Second.
Master King?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Hughes?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Clark?
Yes. First on the agenda, we have a very special guest today, Representative Rita Smart. And Rita wanted to just come in a little bit and just kind of update you on what's going on around, and also maybe talk to us some good news about some things.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you all for your service to our community. I'd also like to tell you that's an honor for me to serve as the representative for the 81st District. And I see my role as the representative to serve the citizens of our county as the watchdog for their tax dollars that they send to Frankfurt. And I go there to make sure that we have good public policy for all Kentuckians. And at the same time, I go there to make sure that I can bring the money back that we have sent there for the needs of our county. So the first thing right out of the bat, when I became the state representative, you know, we're all interested in roads. So I'll start my presentation today about roads. The first thing I did was ask the Transportation Department when they were going to repave East Main Street. And that was over a year and a half ago, and they said, well, Miss Smart, we'll get to that later. And I said, well, it's like the wagon train. It hadn't been paved for 15 years. So I want to know when you're going to do it. And later that day, the young man called me back and he said, Miss Smart, we'll put the signs up this week. We'll start on Friday night. So I was happy to get that done. And I think you all know, I've worked with all of you. You know me. You know my philosophy of life. I encourage people in our community to work hard, to do right, take care of their family and their neighbors. And that's what I preach as I go about the county. Well, right out of the bat, when I started as state representative, we had a problem over in Berea on Mady Road with the railroad crossing. And you remember that. We had a death there. Originally, we thought that was the job of the railroad. You know, it was their railroad. People had to cross it, but we found out later that they were not responsible for putting up the lights. So the city of Berea approached me, and we were able to work out with the city doing half of it, and then the state transportation came back and did half. So that was for safety for our community there. Now, as fiscal court members, you know that major part of your work is on fiscal matters, and that's the same way it is in Frankfurt. When I got there and I looked at a $19 billion budget, you know, I thought, my goodness, you could do anything. But day after day and month after month, I see many of the needs of the people here in the county as well as the state, and it doesn't take you very long to realize that the money runs out. We here in Madison County are a little bit shielded from the problems of the economy because we have such a diversified economy. We have a good mix of agriculture, retail, manufacturing, and the number of government jobs that we have. But in fact, we probably have more jobs than we can fill. And many of the manufacturing companies, for example, tell me they can't find people to work for them. And when I say, why not? They say it's a drug problem. They can't pass the drug test. Well, you know that we spent many, many months and days in Frankfurt working on this because it's a major problem in our state. And one of the problems that we ran up against were the drug companies who lobbied and spent over $486,000 to lobby against legislation related to the drug problem. But here, every day, people will come up to me and say, Ms. Smart, please help us do something about the drug problem. It's killing our families. Our local law enforcement agencies talk to me about that. You know, you can't pick up the newspaper any day, but that doesn't take up the front page. So drug and alcoholism has created a terrible problem in our community, and our community responded to that through their work and their help with domestic violence. Here locally, the DOCJT has joined our local law enforcement agency community to help alleviate this. And I brought you all some copies of their local magazine that highlights Madison County and the work that our law enforcement is doing on that. And I especially wanted you, when you take this home tonight, it's good reading material, I want you to start on page 56 because it talks about childhood intervention. And when we think about drugs, alcohol, domestic violence, the children are are the most vulnerable of the population. And this year, the governor focused quite a bit on early intervention, and that's trying to help these young children, make sure they're shielded from that, help them to make sure they're ready to go into school. So I realized that your budget does not allow you to provide funds for early intervention. But when I realized that we pay and we have more money for the animal shelter than we do for the children's shelter, I felt like that we needed to find funds somewhere. And so I worked and I lobbied with the House leadership, with the Health and Human Services Cabinet, and with the Governor's office. And your budget will reflect $100,000 that will be coming to you, to Madison County Fiscal Court, to help with Hope's Wings, with our domestic violence spouse abuse center. And that will be for the 2-year cycle, and we'll be able to open that back up and help the families of Madison County. Now, I know where you sit, your number one problem, or your number one thing that your constituents will ask you about, is roads. And they want good roads. They want roads they can bring their animals to the stockyards, go to work, go to school, go to ball games, go to wherever. So you know how I am about budgets and looking at budgets and going through it with a fine-tooth comb. The only budget, mainly in Frankfort, that had excess in revenue or an increase was transportation. So in going over that transportation budget, I did realize there were some funds left over from a project that you had done a year or two ago. And so I went to the governor's office and asked them about that, and then I came back to the judge. So if you are interested, we can get that additional funding that was left over from the bypass and Wilderness Road. And I think it's about $725,000. I used to travel that road when I go Pernure Acres, and I think it would be an economic boost to the citizens in that end of the county. So those are some of the things, some of the highlights that we were able to accomplish. And I would like to give credit to our senator, Senator Carpenter. He and I have worked really good together this year. You know, of course, the money starts in the House, and that's where we have to originate that. And so we get it started there, and he makes sure that it's kept in the budget and followed through so that we can get back to the county. So that's basically all I have to tell you today. I think it's pretty good news. I hope you're happy with that. And here's your copy of law enforcement, and talks to you about some of the other good work that's going on in Madison County.
Rita, we just want to thank you very much for coming in and kind of bringing us up to date. I know you're doing a fabulous job in Frankfort with what you've got to do with down there. You know, and I told some people, I think at the Chamber luncheon, that, you know, a lot of the projects that were funded have been in the 6-year road fund for a long time, but they were never funded, and they were funded this session. So we want to thank you and Jared and Lonnie so much for that. And the last project you talked about, we've been talking about it a long time, really with not a lot of success of opening up Wilderness Trail. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, we built, I was working for Starling Hound, we built Pernure Acres, and we went through there, and you couldn't even get through it with a go-kart, a four-wheeler. The county's been able to upgrade it some, but what this money will do will allow us to widen it to a minimum of 16 feet and blacktop, put additional rock and blacktop, and it'll serve kind of as a connector for all those people on Colonel Road that have to deal with a tunnel or have to go to that terrible interchange at Boonesboro. They can go right just down Pernure Acre to Pernure Road and come right out at Caudill Middle School on the bypass. So I think it's a great project. It's something that'll really help alleviate some traffic. And I want to thank you personally and on behalf of the court for talking to the governor and getting that money released, because they were having second thoughts. A lot of times, that much money's left on the table. They scoop it up and it goes to another project, but this was still there. We'd never signed off on it. So I appreciate so much you being able to talk them out of the 700, and I think it's $21,000. So
Well, any other times that I can help you, county attorney's been most helpful to me, and your county clerk also. And I say you all are doing a really good job. Again, thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Rita.
Rita, you're welcome to leave. You don't have to sit here.
My husband will be happy.
Okay, next, Road Department award the bids on the rock, gas, oil, and culverts. Leroy?
The rock bid, Allen Company got the bid on the rock. The cupboards, Ferguson Waterworks got the bid on the cupboards. And the gas and the diesel, Richmond Petroleum and Riley Oil. Split it between them like we always have.
It's just fair enough. You know, it's interesting. We have one supplier of blacktop, one supplier of rock, and a lot of counties are like that, especially in eastern
We
Kentucky.
had 3 bids on the cupboard, but they were the cheapest overall.
But I was talking to Hugh McCormick in Henderson County, and they had 4 bids on their blacktop and 5 bids on their rock in Henderson County. So it's very interesting, but we have good luck with Allen, and they do a great job.
Top has went up $5 on the ton this year.
I saw that $79.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Leroy? If not, upon his recommendation, a motion be in order to approve the rock, gas, oil, and culverts.
So move. Second.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger.
Yes.
Master Hughes.
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Thank you, Leroy. Next is approve a quick claim deed with Keiko Leasing. This is that 20.8 acres that we purchased several years ago that really finished out the Battlefield Farm. It was Jake Herndon's house and 20.8 acres, and negotiated with them for a long time. And finally, we're able to purchase that property, and that really squared everything up. That's everything that's available now with the 208 acres of the golf course, the 62-acre tract with Pleasant View, and also the 300 acres down on Crooksville Road. So we paid that off, and what this is more, it's more or less a release than a quick claim, but the lease company calls it a quick claim. And I need the court's authority to sign this so they can go on and sign off on it. But we did get it paid off.
So move. Second.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger. Master Hughes.
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Next on the agenda is Madison County road name change, and I think we've talked on this a couple of times. Tom, I'll let you talk. We've got a Cedar Cliff Road and then a Cedar Cliff South Road. It's over in the Bearwaller area, and they'd approached us before, and I don't think they could come up with a name that they all agreed on, whatever, and I think they've done that now. Tom, you want to talk to us a little bit?
That's correct, sir. We changed the road name to Needmore Road and changed the addresses. There was kind of a road name sound alike. We got Cedar Cliff Road, as you can see on your maps up there to the north there, and we got Cedar Cliff South Road. That's where those two roads used to connect. They used to be the same road. And then there's that middle part there along the creek that's no longer maintained. So for public safety reasons, so any kind of emergency responder wouldn't confuse the two roads and end up on Cedar Cliff Road instead of Cedar Cliff South Road when they're responding to a medical emergency or some other emergency. We changed the road so they wouldn't sound anything alike. The addresses were very similar, so we changed the addresses on Cedar Cliff South Road so they wouldn't be anything alike. And we're just wanting you all to recognize that we made that road name change.
You don't think in their thinking when they came up with that they're going to want us to extend that road anytime soon?
I hope not.
Okay, and we talked about this before, and I'm glad they all came up with a name, and duplication's terrible for emergency services, so I think this will take care of that problem. If there's no questions, a motion on Tom's recommendation to change Cedar Cliff South Road, which has a road number of 1152, to Needmore Road.
So moved.
Second. Do we have the footage on there?
I can get you the footage on that. I don't have that at this time.
Okay.
It's real short, Larry. It just
I know where
goes
it's
back
at.
to a dead end.
Business district.
1,000 feet, looks like, 1,500 feet.
It's okay.
Okay, next on the agenda, oh, do you have something else, Tom?
That was me. I ain't gonna vote yet.
Huh?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
I was waiting for discussion to die.
Okay.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes.
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Next is approval of our state road maintenance agreement. Bring you up to date with this a little bit. We're the only county in the state that does this, but we take care of the state secondary roads. It's a contract that we've been in, I think this is the 4th or 5th year. And it works out great for the state, and it works out great for the county residents because we have more equipment, we have more availability of salt, and the state has their priorities. And we mow, we do routine maintenance is all. We'll replace culverts, cut old trees down, we blacktop patch, and mow, that's the biggest thing. We mow them 5 times a year, the right-of-ways. But there's approximately 120 miles of these roads, and the contract calls we collect $179,771 each quarter for 4 quarters. It really amounts to $500 a mile is what we collect on this. We've pretty much broke even, all except last year with the combination of the winter and the salt and the wear and tear on the trucks. But it's been a good agreement, and I've talked with the magistrates, talked with Leroy, and it really would be very detrimental to those individuals that live on these roads or those county roads and subdivisions if we didn't do it, because it would be a lot later before they could get the roads cleared. So it's good for everybody, and we're not trying to make money on it. It's just kind of a break-even type deal, and the state's very much interested in keeping this agreement, and I think we are. And I'd answer any questions that anybody might have about it.
Is there any changes to this contract?
The only change we did last year, Roger, was because of the state requirements of striping, and that's when we got it raised from $450 to $500. And we agreed to do a third each year, and they've done that along with some county roads that we paid for. But that was the biggest change, and I told them that, I didn't feel like that was in routine maintenance, so they agreed to raise the price. And that will cover the striping, and we'll keep every state secondary road striped every 3 years, which is what they ask for anyway.
Now, it makes sense for the taxpayers because we're driving over those roads to get to the county roads with their snow removal or whatever. So it's
I was at
pretty smart.
a homeowners meeting last week, and they was very appreciative of the road department and the services that they do and the services that they.
I'm surprised we're the only county that does that.
There's one other county that's thinking about it. It's a lot of them just, they don't have the equipment and the manpower to take care of it, right?
It does help buy some of our equipment too, like our trucks, or help maintain some of them. I know it's.
Okay, so if no further discussion, a motion will be in order to approve the state road maintenance agreement with the Department of Transportation.
So moved.
Second.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger.
Yes.
Master Hughes.
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Budget amendment, and as Glenna said, this is an emergency order because of the time frame. We don't have the time to really go through the proper procedure of advertising for a budget. So this was, for the jail, was $148,427 of unbudgeted revenues that came in here at the end of the year. So we need to adopt this emergency order to allow Glenna to get this in this year's budget of $148,427.
So moved. Second.
Master King?
Yes.
Mr. Barger?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Judge Clark?
Yes. Another budget amendment, and of course, y'all know, we're winding down the fiscal year. This is on 911 receipts, and we had 46,285 of unbudgeted revenues that came in here at the end of the fiscal year before it finalized. So we need to do another emergency order as far as that goes of the 46,285 for 911 budget.
So moved.
Second.
Master King?
Yes.
Mr. Barger?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Judge Clark?
Yes. Next is pay resolution on the food bank, the CDBG grant that we are financially taking care of. And this looks like closing out a lot of this 84 lumber, $28,003, ready-mix concrete, $1,428, for a total of $29,431. And Glenda, does this close the grant out, or is there a little?
It should be.
If it isn't, it's real close.
Just a few thousand maybe left, but it should be close.
So a motion would be in order on the recommendation of Brian Kirby, there, and the food bank representative, to pay the ready-mix concrete and 84 lumber.
So moved.
Second.
Master King?
Yes.
Mr. Barger?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Judge Clark?
Yes. Next on the agenda is second reading of ordinance 1205, and that's our 1213 Madison County fiscal budget. We talked about this on first reading. There's some really good things happening. All the department heads are doing everything they can to cut out needless spending. It's another really good budget. The past one, we're going to balance 19 budgets with a positive cash flow. We've tried to look at more ways, the road department with the state contract, with a lot of things going on with them, and you know, we're not buying new trucks anymore. We're buying used ones and putting beds on them, and Leroy and his staff are doing so much to do everything in-house. Leroy, the last year and a half, I think you all have built 5 bridges, and 2 this year, and we're using the state's 80-20 funding, which is saving us a tremendous amount of money. So I can't say enough about Leroy and his staff and how they're saving. And this is the first year, and this is my 19th year, that we really aren't going to have a reserve for the road department. Now, there's one in there. We have to have that in case of emergency, but you know, I think that speaks highly of Leroy and his staff and what they're doing. All the department heads. I mean, I could sit here and talk about each one of them. Chris, I see Keith's here. Keith's got it under control. He's got his new building going, and they've done a lot of work to that. You know, expanding services for the animal shelter, and Carl's in Pueblo right now, but CSEP's just been amazing. A new $18 million digital radio system and new tone alert radios, and we're up to 91 sirens now. So things are good, really. Everybody's watching what they need to watch. We're not wasting any money. The one thing I think that's notable in the budget, our occupational tax didn't drop at all. Matter of fact, it was up this year, and that's very unusual going through the turn down. But as Rita said, we're very fortunate here, because if you really want to work, there's a job for you. Might not be exactly what you want to do, and you might not make exactly what you want to make, but there's a job in Madison County for you, for any of it. If you can pass a drug test and you'll show up for work. That's the bottom line. Another thing that sticks out in the budget is, you know, we've always given 911 $40,000 as far as a backup to operational funds. This year, after 12, 13 years, we've been very fortunate. Usually the life of the radio equipment and the CAT system runs anywhere from 4 to 6 years, and we've been using this equipment for about 12 or 13 years now. So it was time. We have to update the radio system and update the CAD system. Carl was just great in working with FEMA to match the phone system because we do indeed use them as our 24/7 watchdog, set the alarms off and make the calls and things. So the total of all of it was about $950,000, and that's something that we really weren't expecting. But as landlines go down, operational costs go up with 911. So the three governments, we've met several times on this. We're all in agreement. I think we all understand how important 911 emergency dispatch is. I mean, you can talk to Jimmy Cornelison and EMS, over 14,000 runs. So it's something that had to be done. So Carl got $375,000 match, and we're going to spend $375 plus the CAD system was $225. And the three governments are going to borrow the money. We're going to pay it back. We're going to sign an MOU. And set it up on 4 years, and we got a locked-in 3% rate. And hopefully we can start looking like 5 or 6 years from now where we can start building up a pot where we don't have to borrow money again. There's several options that we're looking at. I'm not going to bring them up today because of the agenda, but we're having our interlocal government meetings, and I'll tell you about the next one in my judge's report. And a lot of things are coming out of that. You know, we're looking at things that we can do together to save money, to upgrade services for people. So it's been very successful, and all three governments are really participating. I think the last meeting we had, everybody was there except for 1 or 2 people. And we had a large contingency of people that weren't elected officials. So it's another good budget. Total funding, and you know, you don't want to get surprised about it, but it's $38,799,000. Of that, CSEP's $12,900,000. So that always throws you off. God, you all got a $39 million budget. Last year it was 36.5. The year before that it was about 56 million, because that's when we were doing the radio system and stuff. But everything's in order. Kenny's doing a great job managing his books, and Sheriff's doing an excellent job. But just everybody's working together to make this happen, and it's just it's another good budget. And I'd be more than glad to answer any questions, and then I'd open it up for comments from the court. If anybody has any questions they'd like to ask about it, any particular department. And I hate to say anything about one department because then I'm leaving out 12. But Solid Waste doing an excellent job with the loan of trucks, and we've got our new packer, our new recycling packer now, and they've got it out using that, and that's going to save us. I think it'll pay for itself. I know it will. So we're expanding that service more and more. We're up to about 2,500 households now, and we'd like to add another 1,000 this year. And I think we'll be able to now with our own driver and our own truck. And then we're utilizing that driver to do a lot of other things when they're not running the routes. So Scott's doing an excellent job down there. You know, it's just Tom and Chris. Things are good in Madison County government right now. That's all I can say. Glenna and Angel and her staff. I can look around. Mark. You know, everybody's working together. It's a great team. And I'd open it up for any comments from the court. Greg, do you have anything?
Oh, it looks like a pretty good sound budget. I mean, the overall aspect of it, as long as the economy stays the way it is and people can afford and we be conservative with their tax base and stuff like that, I think it's a good outlook for the public in general.
Roger?
I think it's a decent budget, even though we're up a little over $2 million from last year. A lot of counties are looking at a big increase in their budget, and their income's going down. But we're holding our own, and very fortunate where we're at to be able to increase our budget and still pay the bills.
Bill Ray?
Glenn, what's our retirement match percent this year? It's 16-something last year.
It's not going up a whole lot. It was 16.9. No, right now it's 18.
They moved it up to.
It's going up to 19.57.
I'm not sitting on my desk, if you need the actual figure.
Yeah, I've got it.
That's state mandated. Everyone has.
Yes, and it went up about 1%, and so did the hazardous. But we've had years that we went up as much as 3%.
Yeah. Yeah, just a few years ago, it was like 6 or 7% what the match was, so it's up to almost 20% now for retirement, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's tough too, Bill, right, because it's been, I don't know how many years since our child support office has received any kind of budget increase.
Yeah.
But each year, you know, the retirement contribution goes up and up and up. It's very difficult to stay the same revenue without the same services and your costs expanding.
Right.
It's very difficult
Right.
on all of us.
It's going to be a challenge for all governments because of that increasing burden.
It's going to be a challenge. I talked to Dr. Johnstone, who's on the health department, and it's bothering them right now, you know, with the cuts, the federal and state cuts, and what they're going to do about these benefits that governmental and taxing district employees receive.
Yeah.
Larry?
Judge, I think it's a good budget. It's, I'm sure each master's got things they could pick in it or want things more or whatever, but overall, it's a good budget. I compliment all the department heads for working hard to bring this thing down the way it should be and just get through another year and hope the economy will grow a little bit. I think we're in good financial shape.
Okay. If no further discussion, a motion will be in order to approve our 2012-13 budget.
So moved.
Second?
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes.
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Next is second reading of ordinance 1206, land use change regulations. Is Dwayne, you want to come up just in case we've been over this once? It's whereas the Madison County Planning Commission recommends the Fiscal Court to amend section 401 of the Madison County land use regulations by utilizing the alternative regulation for zoning map amendments as follows. Dwayne?
Yeah, this just basically takes advantage of a section in the KRS statute that allows non-controversial land use changes to be handled directly by the Planning Commission and not have to come to you guys, but it still allows the opportunity for you as the fiscal court or any other person that may feel aggrieved by the Planning Commission's decision to request that you be the ones to make the final decisions.
And I think you agreed, request of Master King, that any list of these, any one of these would be sent to the fiscal court representatives before any action was taken?
Absolutely. As we prepare the packets for the Planning Commission to review, I'll make it a point to just start copying you guys with a copy of everything that's going to the Planning Commission for a zone change hearing, so you have an opportunity to see it, whether it's in your district or not. I'll make sure every one of you have a copy of all of those zone change requests before they get heard at the Planning Commission level. And Mr. Robbins has made just a few changes in the format of the ordinance, but the text of the ordinance is the same.
Okay, no further questions. We had pretty lengthy discussion on this last time. A motion would be in order to approve second reading of ordinance 1206, land use change regulations.
So moved.
Second.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes.
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Next is second reading of ordinance 1207, another land use change regulation, and this is dealing with the animal feeding operation. Dwayne, you want to just briefly go over it again?
Yes, sir. Again, in our regulations, we basically had a very brief statement dealing with large animal feeding operations, and that it was a conditional use in an agricultural zone, but that's really about all we said. We've really not required anything additional. All we've done is taken the state's requirements for concentrated animal feeding operations and animal feeding operations and incorporated that in our land use regulations, just primarily for informational purposes, for people to be able to access easily what the state's requirements are for those, and then as they apply for a conditional use permit to open or operate an animal feeding operation, they just have to provide to the Board of Adjustments copies of all the state required permits. Again, I've had several farmers, several cattle farmers call me and ask me for copies of this regulation. Not had the first not had the first person raise any kind of awareness or concern over this regulation change, because we're not imposing anything in addition to what the state already requires anyway. Just trying to provide a little better clarity for what's defined as a large animal feeding operation.
On the recommendation of the Madison County Planning Commission, motion would be in order to approve ordinance 1207, another land use change
So
regulation.
move.
Pastor King,
Yes.
Pastor Barger,
Yes.
Pastor Hughes,
Yes.
Pastor Combs,
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Next is our ordinance 1209, the FEMA flood maps. And I've said my piece 3 or 4 times, so I'm not going to open my mouth about the flood maps.
You sure now?
But I got a nice letter from FEMA representative the other day stating that they appreciated our cooperation and our willingness to adopt the maps. And I did not respond. So, as we all know, it's another federal mandate that's just going to cost the taxpayers more money, cost a lot of people more money. But it's something that we have to do because a county this large, as we've seen with the flooding and we've seen with the ice storm and tornadoes, we have to have support from FEMA to cover those costs, or our residents are just, they're lost with no assistance. So if there's no further discussion, we'll go on and approve ordinance 1209, and that's the adoption of the new floodplain maps.
So moved.
Second.
Pastor King,
Yes.
Pastor Barger,
Yes.
Pastor Hughes,
Yes.
Pastor Combs,
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Okay. All right, Dwayne, I'm going to let you stay up there just a little bit longer. Land use change, Galda, Logston, 3407 Berea Road from UC7 Urban Ag to UC4 General Commercial. Dwayne, you want to explain this to us a little bit, and then I'll ask if anybody's in the...
Yes, this is an order recommended by the Planning Commission to deny the zone change request for property at 3407 Berea Road. This property is on the left side of Berea Road, just past Valley Green subdivision. It was one house that sat in the midst of a whole line of houses, backs up to Valley Green subdivision, and they were requesting this one lot that was probably less than a half acre in size to be rezoned to general commercial. Planning Commission felt like that the property was more suited for residential use, which is what its current zoning classification is, so they've made a recommendation to fiscal court that the zone change request be denied.
Dwayne, did the representative from the person that proposed this state what they planned on doing with it if they got a general commercial?
No, they've got the property for sale, and I think it was more speculative. From my conversations with them, they were hoping to rezone it to commercial to make the property more lucrative to sell.
I mean, with the size, there's nothing anybody could do with general commercial there.
No, that's what the Planning Commission felt like, that, you know, the topography of the land, the size of the lot was more suited for residential use, especially if it was converted to commercial property. You've got 15-foot landscape buffers that would have to be installed on both sides and the rear of the property, and it just wouldn't be suitable. Plus, you've got then you'd have another commercial entrance that would be too close to the entrance into Valley Green subdivision, and just felt like it was just not suitable for commercial property.
Okay, as always, I'm going to ask, is there anybody in the audience that would like to approach the court to speak for or against the proposed denial of the zone change out on Berea Road? Are there any comments from magistrates about the proposed zone change?
Well, I would say that of all the recommendations that the Planning Commission has sent before this court, this one makes more sense than any of them.
I don't know about that, Larry. You get a little...
I will state for the record.
Agree with them once.
I will state for the record that the applicant's request said that the existing zoning classification given to the property was inappropriate, and the proposed is appropriate. And the Planning Commission's recommendation was that it be denied and made a finding of fact that the topography of the land is better suited for its current development, and the comp plan calls for development to be harmonious with other development. So that states the findings of fact for the record.
All right, upon the recommendation of the Planning Commission to deny, motion would be in order to deny the proposed zone change on Berea Road.
So moved.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes.
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Now, another amendment to the Madison County subdivision regulations, and I think this has been something that the Planning Commission and you, Dwayne, have struggled over for a long, long time, trying to put what some people might say, just a little bit of fairness in some of the regulations. And I'm going to let you kind of go over this a little bit and explain to the court exactly what they've decided on doing. And it's been kind of a compromise, really, to try to do something to help some of these people.
Right. Currently, the way the regulations read, in order to consider a minor subdivision plat, which is to divide any parcel into 3 tracts or fewer, and the parent tract being considered one of those, the requirements currently are that all the tracts have to front a minimum of 100 feet onto a public road, a public maintained road. So it's got to be maintained by public funds. Quite honestly, we've run into several situations where landowners either don't have sufficient road frontage to be able to divide, to meet those requirements, and yet they may have a farm. They may have a large tract of land that's been in the family for years, and they quite honestly want to create a tract or two for their siblings, and they can't do it because it doesn't meet the requirements. And the Planning Commission's always been confronted with the situation of granting waivers or exceptions to the regulations, and then the fear of not being consistent with that waiver granting authority. So what we've done with this is basically made an exception to the rule that just says that if the tracts are going to be used solely for single-family residential or agricultural purposes, we will allow them one minor plat division of the property onto an access easement private road, and we've spelled out in great detail the fact that it's understood by all parties that the access easement is a private road. It's maintained with private funds. They have to have a road maintenance agreement, and it has to be privately maintained. They only get this one shot to create these tracks on this access easement that has to be 50 feet wide. They have to provide some kind of road. It can be gravel, it can be pavement or concrete, but it has to be maintained that would allow emergency service vehicles to be able to access the property, and basically goes on to spell out that it's got to be understood on the plat that before the county will ever consider accepting or taking this road into the road maintenance system, it has to be upgraded to meet the county road standards that's in effect at that time, and it has to be done so at their sole expense. Basically trying to explain to them, we're giving you one shot to create a couple tracks for your children on your farm without having to meet the 100-foot road frontage requirement on a private road maintenance, with a private road maintenance agreement. But you've got to understand the county will not ever take these roads over unless and until you upgrade those roads to meet the county standards. And the Planning Commission haggled over it. To be honest, I've written and rewritten this thing probably 4 or 5 times, and this is the best that we could come up with to allow people some reasonable right to be able to develop their land or create a couple of tracts for family or for some other purpose. Because there's a lot of farms or a lot of tracts that don't have the required 300 feet of road frontage to create 3 tracts.
say a couple of tracks, but if they got 8 children, can they create 8 tracks?
No, it's done as a minor subdivision
Who's the max
plat.
that they can create?
2's the max they can create. And that question came up. We had some planning commission members that said, if we got 4 or 5 children, what are you gonna do? And I think the general consensus was, the truth of the matter is, if you got 4 or 5 children, you'll be lucky if you have one that wants to stay on the farm. The rest of them's gonna wanna go. But, in trying to be fair and yet not completely throw the regulations out the door, we felt like we're gonna make a compromise here and allow you to do this as a minor subdivision plat. There are some provisions in there if they wanted to divide the farm up into 15-acre tracts. If they had a large farm, technically they could divide the farm into 15-acre tracts. It'd be considered an agricultural exemption. They'd be exempt from our regulations, and they could do that as an ag exemption anyway. That's provided for in KRS 100. So there are some provisions. The other thing we ran into with this occasionally was you may have one individual that has 100 acres and he's built his house in the middle of the farm, and now in order to get a better interest rate on his home mortgage, the mortgage companies want that home to be put on an acre or 4 or 5 acres rather than the 100 acres, so they can get a good comp on it and then get a good interest rate. And this allows us that latitude to be able to make provisions for those kind of circumstances and yet not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
The only question I had was the number of tracks that they could make.
Did I understand you to say it had to be a 50-foot?
If they're creating a new easement, there is a provision in here. If there's an existing easement there, then we will allow them to access it too from an existing easement. Okay. The only thing they have to do with an existing easement, they have to provide us, whoever's requesting the division, they have to provide us some kind of documentation that shows who owns the easement and that they have permission to provide additional access points onto that easement.
Well, I'm sure this will make your job a little bit easier because I know you get a lot of calls on it.
Yeah, we get a lot of calls on it, and we have to turn a lot of people down that come in that want to just create. I had a gentleman come in yesterday that he's the only sibling, and his dad wants to give him 5 acres, but where he wants him to have it is not on the road, and he doesn't have enough road frontage, and he wants to be able to divide this. This would enable him to be able to do that. He said, long term, it's not going to have any impact on anything because I'm the only sibling, and I get the 150 acres when he's gone. So we felt like as a planning commission that is a reasonable compromise across the board.
To accommodate the people, I was looking at it, and I'm glad we are moving it to where maybe somebody does have a kid and they can want to build on their home property, they can. So, I look at it now as a good proposal. So.
Yeah.
All right, no further discussion. Motion be in order to approve the amendment to the Madison County subdivision regulations dealing with the private road issue.
So move.
Second.
Pastor King?
Yes.
Pastor Barger?
Yes.
Pastor Hughes?
Yes.
Pastor Combs?
Yes.
Judge Clark?
Yes.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Thanks, Dwayne. Okay, next issue. Leroy, you want to come up just a second? And I think you of all people can explain the importance of this. As you all know, we talked months ago about purchasing, there was 220 acres of land down off Dogwood Drive for a place to get rid of trees and brush. I don't know how many trees we cut during the winter. Ice storm, just trees falling over in the road. The only place we've ever had is Oakley Wells Road to go to. That is completely, entirely out of the way when you're in south end of the county or in Paint Lick or in Kirksville. So we've been looking, and we thought we could enter into a partnership with Berea, but Berea felt like they still had the old dump over there, even though I don't know how long they're going to be able to use it. So Mr. Maggard has agreed to split the land into one tract of 100. It's about 110 acres. It's been surveyed. Originally had it divided up into separate tracts, anywhere from 5.5, 6 acre tracts. So the 100 we're getting is approximately 16 lots. It's an ideal situation. It's right there, it doesn't bother anybody. And it's something that would be there for 100 years from now. It's got the capacity to provide a place to take brush and trees and anything, anything else. What we're looking at is maybe hiring somebody part-time to open it to the general public on Wednesdays and Saturdays, so they would have a place when they trim their trees, they trim their bushes and stuff, they don't have anywhere to put it. And then contractors would be a small, minimal charge to dump there also, but it would get this stuff out of hollers and ditches where they're just piling it up. And, I mean, Leroy keeps a crew busy about all the time. So Mr. Maggart and his wife have agreed to split the property, and they've done a deed, and take half the price, which is $75,000. We have an appraisal on it. Everything's kind of in line, and what we're looking at is just having another place that would really be available to everything from, I don't know, Bearwaller, Red Lick, Bobtown, all of Berea, all the way around through Paint Lick, Kirksville, and there, where it's so long, it just ties two drivers up in a truck all day to go all the way over to Oakley Wells. So, Leroy, I'm going to let you say just a few words about the importance or what this could mean to the road department.
We have a lot of calls every day, people hunting for a place where they're trimming, wanting a place to take it. And if we can get this property, it'd help me a lot, especially when the storms hit, tornadoes and ice storms. And because I'm the one out there when it hits, and I'm the one out there trying to find a place to put all this stuff. And it's not easy. The last time I did get some burn permits to burn it, but I had to fight with them the whole time that we was burning that pile, and the people calling in on it. And I know that guy out there toward Berea called and gives all kind of problems over every day, every time we try to burn. He called the state, and our quality control was in here on us all the time, and I think he called the health department, called everybody. It'd mean a whole lot to me to get a place to take all this stuff. But we have, then where we take down there at Murphy's on Oakley Wells, the only thing he lets us take down there is just stuff that falls on the road and what little we cut in the winter, we take down there, here and there. But it'd mean a whole lot to the road department to get a place to take all this stuff.
We're cutting dead trees and cleaning dead trees and trees that fall down in storms and stuff off 620 miles of roadway right now. That's how many miles we're taking care of. So when you start taking care of that many miles and you've got that much debris, it's hard at a county this big to take it all to one spot. So I like, it doesn't bother anybody. It's going to be there. There's enough capacity for 100 years probably in there, Leroy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, or maybe 200.
Maybe 200 years, so it would provide a place that the road department would have from now on. And then I just feel like, it's just an opinion right now, but I feel like Berea is going to want to come in with us on this eventually when they get written up a few times more.
But we cut dead trees and all winter long. That's what we do in the winter. We need a place to put them.
So I'd open it up for comments from the court.
Well, I don't think it's a question, will it ever happen? You know it's gonna happen. We just don't know when we're gonna have another storm. And not only that, the residents right now, yeah, they can take it to Estill County, but you gotta pay once you get there. And you go down Red Lick, I got a place down there, Leroy and them's down there once a week, cleaning up where they just throw brush off the side of the road. They don't have no place to take it. And it would help road department, and then it's gonna help the residents too.
And it would be free of charge to all Madison County residents. There would be no charge for them to come and drop their stuff off, if they've got a dead tree. Had a woman the other day in Poozy Ridge, and it fell out in the road, but the majority of it was still in her yard, and she didn't have anything to do with it. And she called somebody, and it cost her $500 to remove it, and they had to take it to Estill County. So, and she was an old single
We
lady.
go out and clean up big loads of brush every day, or not every day, but about once or twice a week, where people takes that, dumps it out on the side of the road.
So, any other comments? Greg?
I've thought long and hard on it, and I was looking at which at the beginning of it, I didn't like the idea of taking her trash and dumping it in another county. And I have talked with a resident that lives there close by that expressed their opinions, and they didn't want stuff be dumped around near their site. So I was looking at that. I know that maybe we probably do need a place to dump, and you know, it's just looking and looking at the perspective. I've asked around several people in my area, do y'all need a place to dump? And I have yet, other than, you know, just here, get the response that we need a place. So, you know, it's $75,000, and as for the property, and I know that ain't much for 100-something acres, but to look and see the conservative part, I just, you know, that's my opinion on some of the areas that I've looked at and checked on with the people and different things. So if anybody else got.
Well, I don't think anybody, Greg, I've been down there a couple times, I don't think anybody could see what we were doing to start with. It's so far in the middle of nowhere. Secondly is, didn't you meet with the magistrate in that district and the county judge, and they both had no objection to it whatsoever?
I talked to the judge and the magistrate, and they was all right with it. They said as far out that they didn't feel like it would be a problem. And you know, it's the thought as me, and that's just my thoughts, is us taking our stuff and dumping it in another county, you know.
Do that now.
Well, we do it now, but we ain't the one in charge of it. It's privately owned in Esther County.
Well, this one would be privately owned.
This be privately owned. and
Fiscal
the
court.
residents won't have to pay.
We've been looking for a place for 10 years.
Dr.
I don't think
Tudor.
we can find a place no back away from everybody no better. Cause it, ain't nobody around close to it. Can't even see it.
Judge, if the court decides to purchase it, I would like a chance to do a title search just to make sure that the title's in good shape before you actually close on it.
Okay.
And I assume that there's no restrictions in Garrett County about the use of this property?
No, we've had Scott's not here today.
Yeah, he's back there.
Yeah, Scott's looked into this, and, I mean, you do like 1 acres at a time, don't you, Scott?
Less than 1 acre with permitting from the state would require a little bit of stormwater management and a training requirement for the person that's there operating.
That this property can be used for this purpose?
Now, as far as Garrett County zoning restrictions, I'm not aware of those.
They don't.
I don't even think they have.
No.
They don't have
Just
it.
make sure that we don't buy a piece of property that realize we can't use it for this intended use, so let me check on that.
Well, we talked to John Wilson, the
Okay.
judge, and he was fine with it. They don't have any restrictions whatsoever.
John Wilson's word is as good as gold.
Yeah.
I asked Scott the last time to check in on it, on or off, or make sure through the state we'd be good to go if we did. What did you come up with that?
Less than 1 acre permitting, construction demolition, the state views brush as construction demolition debris.
Less than 1 acre, just explain that.
Less than 1 acre permitting was a site that would be managed, obviously less the size than 1 acre, you would permit it off, and I'm not sure if the slope of the land, it kind of.
Straight down?
Straight down.
Doesn't permit up space, but it just permits, you know, ground space. Requires a stormwater management plan and training for the certified operator that's in charge.
Well, most of it would be the county hauling it in there anyway, wouldn't it, Lee?
Yeah, well, what he's saying, that 1 acre at a time is all you can dump on.
Well, it'll take 10 years to fill up 1 acre.
Yeah, it'd take a long time, then you get a permit for the next acre.
We do have money in the budget for this, don't we?
Yes.
Or you permit them all at one time.
Paula?
Can I speak to the 75,000?
Yes, please.
The volume of our population in Madison County and in Kentucky in general with chronic obstructive airway disease is skyrocketing, and asthma, not just in older people, but in children. So the concept of burning brush or burning any kind of debris has really become a major health problem for Kentuckians. I had a call from somebody I know in Barnesville Estates last week and asked if I would come over and help them decide how to burn a brush pile. And I went over there, and he had cleared a quarter of an acre. He had a brush pile that was probably 1 story high and 50 feet across, and it was sitting right at the edge of the woods of Barnes Mill. And I said, "You can't burn that. You will set these woods on fire. You're in a subdivision." And of course, then the burning ban came out. I said, what you really need to do is get somebody in here with a chipper, chip it up, because now you've opened up all this open ground that when we do get rain, you're going to have tremendous mud and erosion going down to the creek. But we have to re-educate our community about burning and the effect of burning on young people, middle-aged people, and old people in terms of airway obstruction. The average cost of putting an asthmatic in the hospital for 3 or 4 days is about $65,000. So employers who are trying to buy insurance for their employees and the taxpayers who are trying to pay for all of the people who are being hospitalized with chronic obstructive airway disease and asthma is just catastrophic. So the last thing we really want is to encourage people on their farms or in their homes to be burning brush piles or burning a bunch of stuff that they have cut down. And even I can see a good use for all if we're chipping up a lot of that to open that to people to have free chips if they want it for landscaping. But the $75,000 would basically cover the hospitalization of one person in Madison County with chronic obstructive airway disease attack or an asthma attack because somebody in Barnes Mill Estates or someplace else has lit up a brush pile. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Well, you make a good point, but like Leroy said, Doctor, they're not gonna let us burn anymore anyway. So, I mean, if.
But there are a lot of people burning. You can go any night,
Well, the
anywhere
reason
in the
they don't
county.
have a place to take it.
Yes. We've got to give them a place to take it for free.
Okay, thanks, Paula. Leroy? I think we've done enough. We'll just go on and see if we want it or not. Is there a motion on the floor to purchase the 75 acres for a never-ending waste dump for brush, trees, and limbs?
Before we do that, can I motion we table it until the next meeting to let Mark look over the deed and then come back with us?
Well, you can certainly make that subject to the title being appropriate, if you wish to do that.
Well, I'll make a motion then that we approve it, subject to your title search.
Well, I'm going to second it because I know how important it is and what it means to the future of the county as far as when we have another tornado, another ice storm, or more flooding. It's going to be something we'll look back and say, gee, 75, and we're going to spend $4 or $5 million to clean this thing up. So hauling it
What did we spend last time?
to Irvin.
What did we spend last time on it cleanup, Leroy? It's hundreds of thousands, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, that's just on the tornado that came through Kirksville. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Kenny?
Pastor King,
No.
Pastor Barger,
No.
Pastor Hughes,
No.
Pastor Combs,
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda is, Leroy had something, but take that off. Next is our transportation agreement flex funding. This is really what this is the governor 2 years ago with the rural secondary money, and what this is with the state rural roads. They so much, it depends on the road miles and the county is determined, and they pick out or recommend to us the state roads that they do. The governor, his wisdom, because county budgets were falling and a lot of people weren't being able to keep their roads up, he allowed up to 20% of that money to be used on county roads, and the county made the decision whether they wanted to use it. It's called flex funding, and we made the decision last year and also this year. Last year, we entered into the agreement and did it, but unbeknown to any of us, they passed a rule or another regulation that they had to send somebody out and inspect them. So we've got this flex fund money, which is $272,000 that has been approved from last year, and then after July 1st, we'll have another $312,000 in flex funding that I'll bring to you all after July 1st at the first July meeting. We'll probably have the MOA on that. But because we did change the road names and stuff, we have to enter into a new agreement on last year's flex funding, and it's been approved and everything. So I would ask for a motion to authorize me to sign the agreement that's between Madison County performing blacktopping on various county roads.
So moved. Second.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes,
Yes.
Master Combs,
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Next on the agenda is, and this is just an amendment to the contract with Patty A. Clay Regional Medical Center. As you all know, we kind of acted as their fiscal agent and applying for a grant to replace all the old original windows in the hospital and kind of a retrofit, you might say. And they haven't been able to complete that all the way. So the grant's up July 1st, so they have asked us to amend that to ask them for an extension. And we'll just send that into Department of Local Government. And it happens all the time with a lot of money, grant money that's given for like a year and you can't get it done. And they're more than glad to extend it. But I need the court's permission to authorize me to sign a letter to Department of Local Government to extend that grant.
So moved.
Second.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes,
Yes.
Master Combs,
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Need a motion for approval of payments of CSEP year-end claims. Glenna's here. She can answer that if you want. As you all know, the federal government stays way, way behind on federal payments. Their budget, they don't even pass their budget till October, and I don't know if they've even passed last year's yet. We get a little money, but Glenna, how much are we behind? You want to come up?
They are supposed to have, we've had trouble through the years. At times they get better, at times they get worse. They've had a lot of cuts in their department, so they only have one person that's able to pay our bills, and when we send in 1801s, reimburse them for us. Whenever they had any kind of disaster, they pull her off to work EMA, which takes her away from the job, which happened back in March and April, put us somewhat behind. Then she was sick, was out, and that put us even further behind. Right now, they're supposed to get it turned around. From the time they receive our 1801, they should have us the money within 30 days. That's the agreement we've made with them. Right now, we're over $400,000 that's over 30 days right now, which puts a real hurt on us. And so right now, we're holding bills that we can't pay because we haven't gotten the money from them. That's why I can't put it on the vendor's claims list until we actually have the money to pay it. That's why I'm asking for approval to pay these as soon as the money drops in, because we don't know when it's going to drop in. They wire it in. We get notification 2 days beforehand. Tammy has went and talked to, or has called them and talked to them. Carl's talked to them and said, and they just say, we don't have the manpower. We've got one person doing it. They'll get to it when they get to it. And our payroll and our utilities have to be paid. So we have to cover those no matter what. Even though we've got 3 1801s for the last 3 payrolls asking for reimbursement, they're still sitting there. They haven't reimbursed us for it. We have a limited amount of money in the CSEP fund that we can float on. So it's becoming a real problem. I mean, it could come to the point where we're going to have to get judge to write a letter to contact somebody about it, because having one person for all CSEP payments throughout the state is just, or even more than that, she does EMA payments, everything.
So,
putting us
in
in a
other
bind.
words, what this motion would be to approve Glenna to go on as soon as the money drops in to pay the claims that haven't been paid.
Because it could drop in a couple, by the end of the week.
Want a motion on that?
Mhm.
So moved.
Second.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes,
Yes.
Master Combs,
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Thanks, Glenna. Next is approval for year-end claims. This is something we do every year. This is claims that'll come in between now and the end of June that need to be paid, and we're not going to have another court meeting. So I would, when we do this every year, it's typical, would accept a motion for approval of paying the year-end claims when they come in up until the 1st of July.
So moved. Second.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes.
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Next, I need to reschedule the July meetings to try to help Finance Department get caught up with everything after the year end. It's just a mess. So I'd like to schedule the July meetings for the 17th and the 31st, and that will be the 3rd Tuesday and the 5th Tuesday.
Sounds good. You have a motion on that?
I don't need one. That's okay. I just want to make everybody aware. Judges report, thanks to our employees. They did so much. Had a great crowd out at Relay for Life. County care team employees worked and they raised $1,698 for the fight for cancer, and that came from them alone. None of that was from county. They raised that themselves, and I think they stayed out till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I went out for a while, but I didn't stay long. But everybody did a great job, and I want to thank them. The burn ban's on, as I'm sure everybody's very much aware of. We just felt like that. Chief called me, and we talked to other agencies, and felt like that it's dry enough now that we could have somebody burning in their backyard and cause a forest fire. So just want to remind people of that. The joint interlocal government meeting has been changed in Berea to July the 16th. And it'll be down at the municipal building. That's the old Dresser building down there, and it'll be at 12 o'clock. Berea's the host this year. And so, and everybody will get a memo on that, but it will be in Berea. Then you've got reports on everything here. One thing I want to bring up to you all and just kind of get some comments from you all. We don't have anything that addresses fireworks. You know, it used to, you shot fireworks on the 4th of July, but now we have all these big trailers set up all over the county and every big parking lot selling all kinds of fireworks. We have looked, a burn ban does not include fireworks, and we can't get anybody to tell us if indeed we could. Wanted y'all's opinion on, of course, it's too late now. We couldn't get anything passed, but something we need to look at in the future about fireworks on the 4th of July and not starting the 1st of June and shooting them off until September, October, especially with a burn ban. I think we could tie it to that. But I just wanted to get your opinion on this. I know it's hard to tell somebody you go buy firecrackers and you're in your own backyard and you can't shoot them off on your own property. It's like telling them they can't go out and do whatever. So you all think about that. Like I said, it's kind of late to do anything with this as far as legal, but we're going to look and see some other communities have done it and how they
City of
do it.
Richmond passed one last year.
Did they?
That limits time frame around the 4th of July that you can set off any kind of firework.
Did they do it by ordinance or resolution, Kenny? They do it by ordinance? So we wouldn't have time to do that. We might look at theirs next year, though. And I think they're,
Establishes times and so forth too, doesn't it?
Right.
I think
Yeah,
some
times a
big
day
parties-
and times a day and the day.
2 o'clock in the morning, you know, I think.
Yep.
Restrictions.
okay. We'll take a look at that. We might be able to do a resolution, Mark. I doubt it. I mean, that's all I had in judge's report. You got some really good reports in there, and we'll have department heads coming in after the 1st of July when they've closed out. Any department heads with anything today? Michelle? She's working her poor self to death.
I'll come up with it, Judge. Just wanted to report and glad to announce that we got our annual $8,500 household hazardous waste grant funding from the State Division of Waste Management. Also got denied a recycling grant that we filled out for various reasons. they're a little, I would say that the recycling grants at the state level are generally biased against single stream operations. Hopefully I can help to change those feelings towards single stream operation at the state level in the near future. Also glad to say we had about 100 volunteers out for river sweep. We netted, when we disposed of the trash, the litter, and the debris, and several tires, and you name it, we pulled it out of the river, about 1.2 tons this year. So the collection point across on Clark County, right across from the lock, basically when the river comes up, there's a backflow. All the cans, bottles, and numerous basketballs and footballs, I would say that you filled a half a pickup load just full of basketballs that had been floated on the shore. So it's a natural collection point. When the water comes up, it flows back with a backflow, and then when it goes down, it deposits right there on shore. So we had a good day.
Thanks, Scott. Jim.
Good afternoon, everybody. As you see, the paperwork I gave you, our estimated for the program startup fund was a lot less than anticipated. That was due to the budget was set up on a fiscal year for the Madison County Sheriff's Department, which runs January to February, and fiscal court runs July to June. We currently have 20 people on home incarceration, 3 more today, only leaving us with 10 monitors, so we went ahead and ordered the other 20 because at this rate we're going to be hooking them up pretty quick. We're also, Mark and myself are looking for some more efficient ways of getting documents signed, trying to get a docu-scan put into our phones where if I get some paperwork done, I can send it to him through the phone and he can sign it. A lot less running going on there. We brought in one intern. She came in yesterday, kind of learned the ropes a little bit, sit through court, see all what's going on. And we also hired a new and part-time civilian to work. He was here earlier, but he had to go. Josh Aldridge is his name. He is an Eastern Kentucky University student, needs 20 hours to finish his graduation. He's a hustler, he's a worker. I had to fly down to Florida Sunday morning and fly back yesterday to pick up a female prisoner. He had the boat by himself, and he done really well from what I hear. One got revoked, and the judge issued a warrant. He got a deputy, and they went and picked him up and brought him to the jail. So that ran very efficiently. His pay wage, we pay him $11 an hour. And that's due to the fact that he doesn't have a county vehicle. He uses his own personal vehicle. We don't provide fuel or anything like that for him, so that just makes up the difference for his maintenance, stuff like that. That's about it. Anybody got any questions?
On the percentage-wise, I know that the people that's going on the house arrest, what is the percentage-wise on the ones that can pay for it and the ones that can't?
Right now, it's about 80% of the ones that can pay for it.
Better than I thought it'd
We based the scale off the poverty guidelines, and what they do, registrars, is look at your income, the household, and the number of people that you have in the household. So if you have X number of dollars household income, if you don't have any children, or not children, but people are in the house, and that determines the scale. There's full pay, there's partial pay, and there's some that are totally exempt.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Any other department heads? If not, Greg?
Everything's going pretty good.
Roger?
Got a Coast Guard inspection at the ferry tomorrow, so we've been trying to dress everything up and make sure everything's working for them. I hope they can get on the ferry, though, as low as the water's dropping. It's just about to where we can't get a car on because of the angle for the ramps if they have to drive on, but it's still open at this time. I noticed that Clay's Ferry's got a couple of lanes closed, and usually our traffic picks up when that's a problem about people having to slow down there. So, but other than that, everything's doing okay.
Bill Ray?
Glenn, in the budget, I know you got this tax rate information for all the different taxing districts. I didn't remember, was that sheet in last year's budget as well?
It has to be sent to the Department of Government every year with the budget.
Anything else?
Nope.
Larry?
Well, Judge, my only comment would be that I'm a little disappointed in the court that would take initiative to do what we really need to do to help the road department and then offer a place for people in Madison County, anywhere in Madison County, to be able to dump their debris and stuff like that. It was in the budget. Same way with the recycling truck, it's in the budget too. And I don't have any of that. That's $64,000. And none of that runs in my district, but I thought it was a good project, so I support it. And I don't know why the court wouldn't support this. That's all the comment I have, Judge.
Okay.
Can I make a comment? We're not finished looking for a place. That's not the only place that we can have one.
Been looking for about 14 years. Dr. Tudor, when he was here, he started looking. Okay. So much for that. Any comments from the audience? Anybody like to approach the court? If not, a motion would be in order to pay the claims, approve the transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes.
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Thank everybody for coming out. We appreciate a crowd, and a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's a long, we did, it's a long agenda, we did all right.
We done well.